This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 439 for the week of Monday, October 10th, 2016. My name is Zach.
And my name is Ed.
And my name is Steve.
And my name is Alex.
Hey,
I think that we should probably keep dropping, like, we shouldn't be like, and like, you know, it's either.
Is this the place or the time?
It's not, but I'm just saying.
Guys, Zach and Alex are fighting.
No, I'm
also,
happy.
On that note, I should change my tone because I kind of say my Steve like I'm ending a sentence, but now I have to say it like there's a comma behind it.
Sorry.
Well, it's nice to have all four hosts here for the first time in a while. Steve, how's it to be back for an entire episode?
I'll let you know at the end of it.
Please do. How have things been?
That's like saying to like a airplane pilot, "Hey, we're in for a nice safe flight today." Yep.
How have you been, Steve? It's been a while since we've had you on for the full show.
Yeah, I was busy 1 week, and now it's like I have a lot of free time on my hands right now. So, of course, the first place I crawl back to is the One Piece podcast.
Are you able to talk about what you were working on?
Oh yeah, I was on a animated show that's currently airing on Comedy Central. That's not named South Park, but I was a storyboard revisionist and storyboard artist on Legends of Chamberlain Heights for the second season. Awesome. So yeah, please watch the current run right now, and show your support if you like it, because I would love to go back and work on another season.
I also want to introduce, we have guests here with us today, including very special guests, translator for One Piece and Weekly Shonen Jump. We have Stephen Paul. Hey, Stephen.
And my name is Stephen.
No, it's a little late.
Okay.
Hi.
No.
Well,
hey, I'm doing good.
Yeah, you're trying, I guess. You're trying. We also have with us, you may know him as Minovsky article on Twitter. We have Casey with us. Hey, Casey.
Hey, second time in a month. Is it a miracle? No. Ultra Suede is a miracle. This is just good timing.
You see, he fits in.
He's been practicing Simpsons reference.
So before we get started, I want to mention one thing. You may have already noticed this, but we plan on releasing One Piece podcast episodes around 10 hours later than we usually do. A lot of people who live in North America probably will not notice this difference as they sleep during that time. But we will now be releasing episodes Tuesday mornings between 7 and 9 a.m. Eastern time. So, we apologize if there's any inconvenience or changes to your schedule there, but it kind of allows us, I think, as a unit to put in a little bit more time and work into each episode you hear. So hopefully there'll be less little issues along the way, and I'll be slightly better rested when I edit. But there's more fun news, and Steve, we were at New York Comic Con this weekend.
We sure were.
I know you were there way longer than I was. Do you want to?
Yeah, I was there for all 4 days. You were there for all but 14 minutes. I was going to say hours, but I'm like, no, I don't even think Zach was there for that.
No, I was not.
Well, it is the Javits Center, so you can be excused for not wanting to be in the building.
Look, I did a lot of New York Comic Con related events, and we had a meetup, which was really awesome. We actually had a lot of people come, I feel like, compared to even previous years, and considering it was raining. So that was pretty, and we were outside, so that was pretty cool. How was the con for you, Steve?
It went very well. I mean, I was busy every day. Had a lot of people stopping by, a lot of podcast fans, and as I got to say up front, thank you guys for stopping by and visiting me and saying that you're listeners. I really appreciate the visits just to me, but for supporting us. We've been doing this for so long. It's kind of crazy now, that people will, will come up to me in person and say they listen to us. And it's nice to know that like New York kind of feels like a hometown for the podcast, not just us.
And Ed, you had a pretty crazy weekend as well.
That's right. On Friday night, I went to All American Wrestling in Marionette Park, Illinois, for the first night of the Jim Lyndon Memorial Tournament. And I wasn't expecting this, but surprise return to All American Wrestling was a big One Piece fan, ACH. And I got to meet him and shake his hand, and he beat Cage from Lucha Underground, Minovsky. So Yeah, it was, and he did the Frankie pose when he entered the ring, and he's all around great guy. Asked him how he felt about One Piece. He was really excited about it, and he indicated that he knew what the podcast was, and he'd be excited to come on. We've been trying to schedule him on for a while. It was tentative, but it's sort of we're still looking to get him on in the future.
Yeah,
it's hard to get one of the hottest free agents in wrestling to schedule a podcast. I imagine.
Pretty much. Like he is a busy guy. But he's all over the place, and so support him wherever you can. If he's on an indie show in your town, he's a big One Piece fan, and you're a wrestling fan, go see the show.
Yeah.
He'll probably show up dressed as Luffy, so you'll know when you see him.
Luffy, or at the very least, dress up as like Gogeta from.
Yeah, he's now Super ACH, and he does wear the Gogeta jacket to the ring. He had been caught doing a lot of Luffy cosplay recently.
Yeah, I mean his Twitter is all Luffy and One Piece oriented.
And a lot of Dragon Ball too.
Yeah, that's also true. So the plan is to have him on within the next couple weeks to talk a little bit about his fandom and maybe have him on for a full episode at some point as well.
He is still the only human being I've ever seen do an actual crouching guile flash kick. He pulls it off so impressively.
Does this guy know how to party or what?
Absolutely.
We also have a couple really cool announcements for some upcoming stuff. First, the Japan Foundation in Los Angeles will be organizing 2 free film screenings for the One Piece Kabuki. We have talked about this at length throughout the year, and this is a very rare chance for Americans and anyone in the Western Hemisphere willing to travel, or anyone willing to travel to Los Angeles. You have a chance to check out the Kabuki. It will be a high quality recording of the live performance from the Kabukiza Theater in Tokyo. That's going to be happening at the TCL Chinese 6 theaters in Hollywood, which is next to the famous one we saw, Ed, the famous Chinese theater.
Oh, the Man's Chinese.
Yeah,
right?
the one with all the handprints.
It's
right next to that. It's not at that. So that's going to be on November 27th. That's the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend, and it's going to be at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. It lasts around 2 hours. We'll have a lot more information and also interview some of the people involved in putting that together over the coming weeks and months. And really, I'm super excited to talk a lot more about that. So stay tuned for more. And Alex, on a little bit more fun news, I hear you're going to be receiving some food soon.
Yeah, for those of you who enjoyed my review of Trafalgar Onion Rings, which isn't what the product is actually called, but I forget what they're actually called.
Were they like potato sticks or something? They were something completely different. Or
it's
something.
They're habanero potato snacks. Not even Funyuns.
They're not onion
based, but it's important to note that it's their product by Tohato with special cooperation by Bandai. But if you enjoyed that little snack review, our great friend and One Piece podcast superfan Huntress is going to be sending me a whole bunch of new One Piece snacks to try out for future videos. So be on the lookout for those.
Ichiban #1.
And
right.
We'll probably, I don't know where exactly it will be. We'll probably have a few of them on Patreon. But that's something I'm super excited to see Dude review, because it was amazing being in the room with you, seeing you review the Law Funyun rings, or whatever we're calling them. Trafalgar Log. Okay, I'm done. On today's episode of the One Piece podcast. That was a few years ago. We have a manga recap of chapter 842. We also have a anime recap of episodes 758 and 759. So with Sam and I believe Ed going through that. And we also have some news. So why don't we get into that first? You guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is the news segment, and I'm here with Steven, and Ed. How's it going, guys?
It's all right.
Yeah.
How do you do?
And we have a new segment this week because a lot of big news came out, and the biggest, since we are all North American, I've heard, is that One Piece.
Proud of my North American heritage.
Is that One Piece Film Gold is coming out in the United States and Canada, and that's big news, and in theaters, which is also big news. So we knew that was going to happen, but now we have dates set to that, and that is January 10th through 17th. That was announced by Funimation, I think, on Wednesday last week.
Right before the beginning of Comic-Con.
Yeah, it's because, and I think they did that because they had giant posters all over New York Comic Con for One Piece Film Gold, which was cool. But I feel like that would have busted the news wide open if anyone had seen that. Wonder what that's about. Which was, I mean, Steve, that was cool to see, right?
Yeah. Any One Piece representation, and apparently they had like little posters too that I missed out on. When I was leaving the con on Sunday, I was walking the streets and I saw someone with a poster, and I was like, "Oh!" But I was like, "Yeah."
They also had them at that Funimation offsite event. They had like, I got to go with Jose. They have the One Piece Film Gold stickers all over the bar, which I was at 11 a.m. because, of course. And they had a lot of cool.
Because Zach likes to drink at 11 a.m.
No, I do not. I'll make that clear. So they had so they were promoting, which is good. But we don't know which theaters they're coming out at. But I think it's pretty safe to say, Steve, that it's probably going to come out in at least New York and L.A.
We're lucky we live in two major entertainment cities.
It's true. And if it does, we will have meetups. I don't know, Steve, can you
Zach will guarantee that. Me, that's an idea that, I came up with. Well, not saying like I'm taking credit for it, but that's something I had in mind.
Steve invented the concept of meetups.
I invented the concept of fan meetups. I was always the one. Ever since this podcast started, it was all. But what if we had a sort of meetup where fans meet up?
So, do you have anything?
I ran that into the ground, but that's something. And I talked to Roger about it too, and he's definitely on board. Look out for something like that. That's something I would love to do, depending on the venue of where the film is playing.
And Stephen is also in a pretty big metropolitan area-ish, and so is Ed now, a different metropolitan area, but still a major metropolitan area. So hopefully we'll have meetups where there are members of the One Piece podcast. So keep an eye out on our site and in general once the theaters are announced for a little bit more about that. So at this point, speculative because we don't know where the hell it's going to be.
I wonder if it's going to be dubbed or not.
That's also a very good question.
I
You don't know?
almost assume it has to be, right? Like if they're going to do a theatrical release. I mean, it's a few months out. That's the thing. Is like they have time to put it together, right?
Yeah, I assume they've known about it for a little bit. I assume it wasn't like, oh, okay, and here's the materials. Usually, when something is announced, they already have some stuff done. It depends, obviously, what it is. But
if they had gotten a simultaneous deal, or like within a few weeks of the airing in Japan, then I would have been maybe a little more suspicious. But I guess I would be really surprised if it isn't dubbed in the theaters.
I agree.
As long as it's out before the Blu-ray release,
Yeah. Just a couple little other items. Speaking of Film Gold, it's also heading to Oceania, New Zealand and Australia to be specific. And it's going to be in Australia on October 27th and in New Zealand on November 3rd. So the Anglosphere is getting its full One Piece Film Gold rewards. It says there, though, for Mad Men says it's going to be Japanese audio with English subtitles. So I don't know if that's any indication. I mean, that's kind of soon. That's less than a month from now. So one might not indicate the other. But we'll find out.
Well, they don't redub it into Australian, do they?
No.
Why?
Not as far as I know.
Brooke is named Bruce.
and Nami and Robin are both conveniently renamed Sheila.
Anyway, we also have the latest episode titles through episode 763 of the anime on our website. It involves the year of Sanji and some revelation or invitation he receives. You'll find out, anime listeners. That's on November 6th, episode 763.
Anime listening might be my preferred way of consuming the anime these days.
Ouch.
Wow. So you know what? That's a pretty good transition. Why don't we get into the anime recap, Ed?
Okay.
This is the anime recap for episodes 758 and 759. I'm your host Sam, and today with us we have Ed. How's it going, Ed?
It's going all right.
We got.
I
episodes.
just marathoned through like 4 episodes of One Piece, 2 last night and 2 before we started recording today.
Yeah.
And there are definitely things I like about it.
Yeah.
And other things I did not like about it.
I'm sure we'll get into a few of those. The first episode on our docket today is episode 758, The King of the Day, Duke Dogstorm Appears. Screenplay is by Tomohiro Nakayama. Episode director and storyboard artist is Ketaro Fujita. And animation director is Yusuke Isochi. That was a new name. It kind of took me off guard. The title card...
He hasn't directed an episode since he's been doing the recap? He's a new guy.
It's not one of the names that I've mentioned on here before. So, the title card this week begins at 6 minutes and 15 seconds.
And it's surprising that it would take even longer next week in the next episode.
The episode begins picking up after the cliffhanger from last week, where Luffy sort of spills the beans about being affiliated with some samurai and a potential ninja. Wanda is pretty sure she heard something about a ninja, but in the background, all the Straw Hats are beating on Luffy, and Brooks doing his bone chop, and they're just all mad at Luffy for opening his big mouth. And they're like, "Oh no, we're just teaching him a lesson about Mingship." And they're like, shouting "Garchoo!" as they're beating the crap out of Luffy. Brooke is saying like, "No, he didn't say ninja. He said kanja, which is the Japanese word for patient."
Yeah, but then with the subtitles, when you say it just sounds like, oh, he's about to say something very bad.
I can't remember what did Stephen say in the translation of his version.
Oh man, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. This brings us to meeting a lion mink named Shishilian. And he doesn't seem to like people talking about sweet and nice stuff like love and romance and babies. And apparently somebody brought that up, and now he's throwing a giant pineapple house at his own friends.
Let the padding begin.
Yeah, this is a pretty. Both these episodes are pretty padded, I'd say. They're a little slow.
But you described that part, but that's like the first 4 minutes of the episode.
Yeah,
it takes quite a bit of time.
Eventually, he gets it out of his system, and he's, garchooing Luffy and thanking him for, his friend saving the minks and all that throughout the last few weeks or whatever, however long the others have been hanging around.
Well, like 2.5 weeks, we eventually figure out, maybe in the next episode they say that. So 17 days ago, yeah.
Yeah. So we enter the home of the Duke of the Day, Dogstorm, who is being taken care of by Chopper and his new doctor friends.
It's Tristan and
Dr.
Miyagi.
Dr. Miyagi, yeah.
Mr. Miyagi. Waxhawk. But it's actually his sanatorium, so it's like specifically like his hospital.
Right.
I wonder if it's where he lives normally.
So yeah, he's taken some hits from their interactions with Jack, but Wanda is happy to see him alive and awake and all that. Dogstorm is eyeing up Brooke like the dog he is, and he's like, what a delicious looking savior.
Actually, and I think it was during this scene where they were panning across, and I spotted that
funky Robin face.
Robin with when her forehead is more than 60% of her face.
The forehead didn't bother me. It looked like a good 50% to me. It's the fact that one of her eyes is like slightly higher than the other.
A little wonky.
Yeah. It's not,
and part of her where her mouth line is, there's a gap there. It's like her lips have fused together briefly, but I don't know. I was probably just like, it just sort of took me out of the moment at that point. But yeah, I actually, throughout both of these episodes, there were some things like that I really liked, like the way they make the minks. They don't anthropomorphize them as much as they could. Like they definitely have, especially Wanda. Like Wanda's face at certain points throughout the episode, they make it look very dog-like, which I really appreciate. But man, some of the other characters are off-model.
Yeah, for sure.
At various points.
So Dogstorm mentions he notices Luffy's hat and he remembers seeing Shanks wearing it, and they sort of have this little moment together talking about Shanks, and immediately he's falling asleep because it's midnight now, I guess. And so that means it is time for the dog to go to sleep. Wanda she has to explain the relationship between Dogstorm and Cat Viper. Apparently, they hate each other and they don't want to see each other, so they've devised a system where Dogstorm rules during the day and falls asleep as soon as nighttime happens, and that's when Cat Viper wakes up and becomes the king of the night. The doctors.
It's a very cute scene with Shishilian when he's like waking up and like he can't do it. He just can't stay awake. And I found that scene very amusing.
Yeah.
But granted, we're already like more than 2/3 of the way through the episode at this point.
Oh yeah, like I've gotten through most of my notes here already.
Super nothing happens.
Yeah, the doctors fall asleep. This is when we finally come back to the scene with the Minks fighting Jack's men. This is when the Musketeers arrive, including Wanda and Carrot and Shishilian. And they have sort of a showdown with the of Jack's henchmen, and it's just sort of a pretty forgettable back and forth before eventually, finally, Dogstorm arrives to face Jack himself, and this is when the episode ends, and we can be in.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that like I was watching. I directly watched the next episode after this, and like they get to that really cool scene with the trunk, and we'll get to that in a second. But that's like 3 minutes after the title card in the next episode. They couldn't have squeezed that in. Like that would have been a really cool cliffhanger. Him stopping the trunk.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't. No, gotta stretch it out even further. So I'm slightly annoyed. But I do, on the positive note, really, I'm enjoying the music mixture of new and old music, as well as the voice acting. I think is particularly good. I am very much enjoying Jack and Sheepshead. Also, mostly because Sheepshead reminds me of Kamina from Gurren Lagann because they have the same actor.
Is who plays Sheepshead?
Yeah, Sheepshead.
Oh, didn't know that. I don't think I've watched Gurren Lagann in Japanese.
Wow. I watched that before it was available legally. Man, I was watching that as it came out. That was the anime hit of 9 years ago.
Yeah, 2006.
Yeah, like fall season 06 into 07. Yeah.
So this brings us to episode 759. The King of the Night, Master Cat Viper emerges. So it's a very similar title as the last one, except now it's about Cat Viper. The title card on this episode begins at 6 minutes and 35 seconds. So yeah, your comment on Twitter about Enies Lobby flashbacks is
that's a little unfair because of like the intros were 40 seconds less back then. There was only a minute 50 instead of 2.5, but it's not good.
So yeah, we begin the episode. We're more or less where we started off, although we noticed kind of an art style change, especially when one of the first things we see is Jin Rummy's current model, which is she doesn't look good.
No, and like the size of her like bathing suit bottom like changes multiple times. Like, but the one I put on Twitter was by far the skimpiest. It was man, like someone get those animators a girlfriend. Come on.
Yeah,
you wouldn't have to draw them all lewd like that.
Yeah, this episode in general has a sort of a noticeable art style where the characters. Part of it I like in that like the characters all have this kind of blocky, like weirdly posed, kind of angular silhouette to them. But they're also like weird, like they're muscular. Their muscles are like all weirdly defined, and it looks a little wrong for One Piece personally, but.
I mean, it matches more, I think, for the Jack guys as opposed to the Minks get it not nearly as bad as Jack's Pirates, but it also kind of fits Jack's Pirates. Yeah, because
So Dogstorm, he drops his sword and announces that they are free to search for the ninja, given that there's no more destruction. But Jack refuses and attacks nonetheless. Dogstorm is able to block it, and it's like this big dramatic scene. I remember it being like amazingly cool in the manga. I don't think it's quite as cool here.
I think it would have been, as I said, it would have been much improved if they'd ended the last episode on that. That's a great cliffhanger.
Yeah. And this is and Jack, announces that if you don't have him, it's your fault. I like destroying stuff. and this is when an underling explains that Jack has a 1 billion berry bounty on his head, meaning he's a pretty big deal. So the fight kind of continues with some Dogstorm versus Jack. Dogstorm sort of realizes that there's no talking to him, so it turns into a fight, and there's swords and electro. Eventually, there's a rain eruption, which Zunesha sprays the water, and it actually does a pretty good job of giving the minks the upper ground because they're better at maneuvering in these situations. And Jack specifically is like getting pushed by the water, which I think is like a cool little detail.
There was also the bit before with like the super low budget slideshow that happened.
Yeah, it's very padded, lots of still images, lots of staring, lots of
like they haven't done it was like a minute and a half. It felt like a minute and a half of just. I mean, the art was noticeably better in the slideshow, but it's still a slideshow. It's supposed to be an animated show, people.
But eventually, this leads to the clock ticking midnight in this little flashback, which, as we've learned in the episode before, means that it's time for the dog to disappear and time for the cat to take over as the ruler of the minks.
And Dogstorm, he does get like a few licks in on Jack. I especially like the part where he like sticks his sword into his forehead and almost takes him down, but like Jack is far too resilient for that. That was actually really well done. There's a noticeable improvement in animation and art in this episode, like directly after that slideshow ends, and it really carries through to the end of the episode.
Right.
Which this is they give you the little bit of good animation and really, really good execution. Like they do it like 25% of the time. And it's just enough to keep you coming back for more.
Yeah, pretty much. So Dogstorm straight up like vanishes in between shots. Like he's like a slasher villain.
Cool. That was really cool. Like he vanishes into the mist.
Yeah. And this is when we I remember when we first heard like Cat Viper's voice when he's doing that. As he wakes, I thought that was like super cool, and like we see his eyes sort of open, and it's just like all mysterious and like, oh, what's gonna happen? What's this guy gonna look like? So now that Dogstorm and his men have all run off, it's time for Cat Viper and his men to come in. And Cat Viper is a big furry cat guy. He looks like a Yakuza boss, with his little pipe and his is it a harimaki like Zoro has?
Yeah, it's the same like belly warmer type. Yeah, that's a harimaki.
Yeah. So immediately Cat Viper is just swooping in and just like nabs Jack by the trunk and just like gives him an awesome shoulder throw.
I was riveted like throughout the entire like last 8 to 10 minutes of this episode. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So Cat Viper.
Cat Viper, great voice.
Great voice. I love how like when he's doing that, it sounds like kind of high pitched and like very animalistic. But then like once he's talking like a normal person, he sounds like this. It's a pretty older. He's an older guy doing the voice, I think.
I'll have to look that up.
His credits went back to like the 70s and 80s, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Masaru Ikeda. That's his name. Masaru Ikeda.
Yeah. So this is when Jack decides to reveal his human form. I remember in the manga, it was like a cliffhanger where we didn't get to see his human form right away, but here they go a little bit further, so we get to see him transform. He's now just a tall, buff dude with braids. He unsheathes his tusks and like there's like swords underneath it. I don't think in the manga they were as cloth looking, the sheaths.
Yeah.
That's a noticeable detail here. And as the fight continues, the Heart Pirates arrive because they're still hanging out as Zoe at this point in time. And they're like, let us fight with you. And Cat Viper is saying like, you guys are technically under me, but you aren't technically a part of this, so it's okay if you step out. But they're like, no, pride, honor, and there's a big charge and clashing, and Jack and Cat Viper are sort of having it out, and this is when the to be continued card happens, and we end the episode.
Just to say, Kenji Nomura, who does the voice of Jack, has been really good in this, and I honestly, many of his other credits, like I recognize Yami from Bleach, the big big Arankar, and oddly enough, Kugayama, the quiet guy from Genshiken, if you've ever seen Genshiken,
No, I haven't.
and Santana from JoJo's, which I don't think I've gotten to yet. So I'll have to keep an eye out for that. But I've really been enjoying his pretty straightforward performance, but it's very, very threatening performance so far. But I think it'll probably get better.
Yep. So, general thoughts on these episodes?
Last 8 minutes were really good. Man, but not much happened. And I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the pacing choices they made for the first, especially with the ending of that first episode. But I really enjoy the material that this is based off of. So I'm kind of in the mild thumbs up category, at least definitely for the second one. The first one, man, not much happened.
Yeah, not much happened. I remember because in theory, I like a lot of the stuff in the second one, like Dog Swim grabbing the trunk. I like the reveal of a 1 billion berry man. I like Cat Viper a lot. But other than Cat Viper, none of the other stuff was super exciting in the anime. In fact, I think the second episode in particular just felt so sapped of energy and just in the direction in general, not even just because of the slideshows and stuff, but just the music choices felt really boring. The pacing felt really boring. Yeah, it's just. I actually
thought that was improved in the second episode over the first one, especially in the second half of that. I really enjoyed the music when Cat Viper was coming in, and but yeah, I can definitely see why you feel that way.
Yeah. So I think that should do it for us. So you ready to move on to the next segment?
Sure am.
All right.
This is the manga recap for chapter 842, The Power of a Full Stomach. Ed, what's going on the front page here?
Before we talk about the cover page here, I would like to talk about the author comments in the back of Jump this week.
Sure, surprise me, Ed. What does he say?
Oda is talking about the Kenko Land Spa? Is that heaven or what? So, just following up on the pray for Oda, Oda is taking some good time off at the spa.
Hashtag pray for Oda.
It makes me happy to know that he is taking time off.
Yeah, that's great. I'm actually super stoked about that.
Enjoyed the spa, guy.
We don't know that he wasn't drawing the whole time. He just was at a spa.
He's drawing in a hot spring.
It's just, the ink is just, running down on the page. That explains this. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, what's going on the cover page of this chapter, Ed?
We have a request from Noda Skywalker from Osaka.
Again?
It was requested many covers.
Yes,
in the past.
Many.
Sanji happily tying catfish whiskers to look like Seth's mustache and putting a log on its head like a chef's hat. So
how is the log staying there underwater? That doesn't make any sense.
Shh. It's okay. It's okay, Alex.
Is it super not so floaty wood?
It's weird. There's 4 really happy catfish, and then the one with his whiskers getting braided does not look very happy.
Wow. I mean, that makes sense.
He looks like he's getting the Ichi the Killer treatment there.
Kakihara, yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, wasn't that guy? Didn't he do a voice in one of the One Piece movies?
Asano Tadanobu?
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay, well, maybe he should. I'm putting it out there. Maybe he should.
Any other comments on this page?
What do you suppose is on Sanji's shirt?
Looks like a catfish.
It does.
Oh yeah, you may be right. Yeah.
The whiskers are there.
Why is he wearing glasses to do this?
He's Mr. Prince.
Yeah, he wears glasses sometimes, or all the Straw Hats do apparently. You've seen that ad for
but to a bubble, to a glass bubble, wouldn't that be doubly lensed?
How could he sit down on a rock underwater?
Okay,
that's not a glass bubble. That's probably
his shoes are ruined.
It's like in smoke underwater.
That's true. Those are pretty ruined shoes at this point.
Can we move on? Is that okay?
Why do Straw Hats all have these friendly relationships with wild animals?
Ed, what's going on in the first spread?
Well, first up, Luffy burps, and you can hear his stomach gurgle. The whole thing is gurgling throughout the background. At least I assume that's what that is. But he is facing off against Cracker, who is fresh to order another round of biscuit soldiers, and they're just sort of rising up out of the ground there, making them eat until you explode. And after Cracker makes these biscuit soldiers, he turns around and says, "Trust me, Mama will hear about how you aided the enemy, King Baum." Jerk. But King Baum is offended that you chopped off my foliage, and now this.
Foliage.
It's foliage, Ed.
Shut up. It's not. It's just not fur, Master Cracker. I'm stumped. She's using the power of Mama's Fever card against us. Don't you see her? In a way, we're following Mama's orders.
Oh my god.
I love it. Save your excuses for Mama, he says. The fact is, you interfered with my job.
Interfered with his jib.
His jib. If it weren't for Nami's reign, his fierce, hardy biscuit soldiers wouldn't have softened up into tasty, chewable treats. The rage on his...
Yeah. It's also great that he has to admit how tasty they are.
I would use the term tasty lightly. I don't think soggy graham crackers have ever tasted good.
Do you think Biscuit has eaten his biscuit soldiers?
His name is Cracker.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Who ate the biscuit fruit?
Yeah, obviously, Casey.
Let me
I'm
tell
so
you
sorry.
about it.
I'm sorry, I was on Greed Island for a second.
Do you know he can produce biscuits at random out of thin air?
Yes.
And you know
Not
I'm back
at
up to
random. If it was at random, that would be a much more useless power.
You kind of look like the Elephant Man.
It's kind of the opposite of at random. It's like to an insane
purpose.
level of design. Yeah, it's just...
What would happen if Cracker was sitting in the
And Nami channeling my thoughts says, "Oh, shut up. This is a fight between pirates. And just because we figured out your weakness doesn't mean you should take it out on my soldiers." My soldiers. She thinks we belong to her now? But Nami gives the evil look. When was the last time she used that? I love that face.
Like the last scene that she was with them.
It's been some time ago.
I love it every time it shows up. She's just
What?
embracing the evilness.
Stephen?
All right. And Cracker is preparing the biscuit soldiers to finish the fight. And he is certain that this should end it. And we get this wonderful action shot of Luffy, just speed lines, very appropriate for this pose right here. he's just like, just gotta eat them. They come back when I break them apart, but I'm kind of hitting my limit here. Maybe there's a way to break them down without eating and before they reassemble. And Nami is...
I didn't even notice that she was in King Baum's mouth there, like all throughout the last page as well.
Yep.
Yep, that's her perch. That's where she's been this whole time. And
her happy place.
Yeah, her happy place. She is commanding the homies once again to do the hard work of protecting her as she does her weather egg. She's going to rain down on the soldiers to soften them up into the tasty treats as mentioned before. And then she challenges Cracker here. You might be the emperor's something, whatever you are, but Luffy is going to be the king of the pirates, and that means his hunger knows no bounds. And this comes as a bit of a shock to Luffy, who is it's like, yeah, he said he wasn't going to tap out, but it's very tempting right now. Clearly, he's just like, I've been eating all night.
Never thought I would have seen that from Luffy. Of all people.
To be fair, he's been eating for probably 12 hours now.
Yeah, and the homies are shocked at this statement that how does he has a bottomless stomach? And Luffy's like, no. But the rain spark comes down, and the soldiers are softening up, and poor Luffy is just like, oh no, I can't. And the homies are like, oh crap. And Luffy finally, he makes up his mind. He's going to eat that wafer thin mint. And he just goes in and you can see the tears streaming from his eyes. He's just on this suicide march here. I'm coming, Sanji. I don't even care anymore. As he takes a big old bite out of the soldier, and the homies are like, "What? Wanton gluttony."
I often say I don't even care anymore after I eat. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, Alex.
Meanwhile, in Sweet City, capital of Whole Cake Island, we are treated to another view of the capital, and the camera zooms in to a lady doing her lips with one of them lipstick crayons, just minding her own beeswax. When suddenly she sees Chopper and Carrot, and there's a
very scared.
Super great panel of her completely missing, and lipstick gets all over her face.
This is the airplane gag. I
Right.
guess probably before that even.
So then you hear the townspeople talk about how this raccoon dog and rabbit were right in the middle of my mirror, and somebody says, "Oh, that's exactly what I saw." So back to Brulee's Miro world. Brulee is chasing Chopper and Carrot as they're holding their restraints, their big ball and chains, and she's chasing them with her scythe, and they're running frantically. And Carrot tells Chobro that she can't run like this for much longer. So it's nice that we got to see a little bit of what Chobro and co are up to.
Is that a mink there? Is that a mink dog person?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really digging that the scared look on Chopper and Carrot's faces in that center panel on the right side of the thing.
Pretty good, yeah. I like the weird Brook style running that everybody's doing.
I think this is nice too that we get this cut in like in the middle of this rather than having to check in back with them after whatever this arc is done.
Yeah. Yeah, I will talk about this a little later.
That was the thing I asked for last week.
Yeah. We'll talk about this later, but I wanted to remark on how much I like the pacing in this chapter. Anyway, we're back to the castle of Germa 66, and it's about time to travel to Whole Cake Chateau. Everybody's all prepared, and Judge says to inform his children. Meanwhile, Reiju is doing what we've seen her do best, which is heal Sanji's wounds. And she tells Sanji that this may sting a little as she takes one of those creepy face masks.
This will make you look like Bon Clay.
Yeah.
Another of your favorite One Piece characters.
Or Chopper. or Frieza, another favorite One Piece character.
All right, all those Matsuricon prizes.
Yeah, for those of you who weren't at Matsuricon, we had a bunch of prizes to give away, and a few of them were these weird cold face masks. So these, I'm assuming this is based off of an actual face mask-esque product. So she takes this weird mask thing and plaps it onto Sanji's face. First it's chilly, and then it shocks him, which is a little more than what you would get if you used Bengay on your face.
Yeah, it's a new product called Shocky Hot.
Shocky Hot, that's right. Not to be confused with Hot Shocky, who is a character in One Piece.
Fair.
So he's screaming in agony, and he doubles over and takes the chair with him, and she tells him, "Don't touch it." And suddenly Sanji's face is back to normal.
I just say that I noticed for the first time, maybe I'm really late in noticing this, but the eyes in the skull are made out of sixes. Germa 66. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
I had
also
not noticed it.
Something I noted also that I completely forgot about, that Judge's nickname is the Garuda. I did a little Google search, because like a Garuda is supposed to be like a large mythical bird, and it is I think there's a seal. The seal of I think it's Indonesia. It's on their flag, I think. But it's the Garuda, and it looks like an eagle, sort of. And it's very similar to the giant eagle-looking thing that's in the 66 throne room.
It's the Indonesian Airlines. The flag of Indonesia is just a red and white flag.
There you go.
It also shows up a little later in this chapter as well. Steve, why don't we move on to the next page?
Sure. Sanji's looking in the mirror. He's like, oh, the swelling's gone down. Ouch. And she's like, yeah, well, that it stops the swelling. It's suppressing, the proper response, but it's not actually healing you. But it's better, you look nice and dapper, for your fiance to see you than like looking all beat up and swollen. She's like and for some reason she gets into this whole thing of saying the Charlotte family never marries into another family to take their name. You'll be the son-in-law there, and if they like you, you could have a nice, happy life.
And if they don't, you'll end up buried in the forest like what's his face.
Oh yeah, Pound.
Yes.
Right.
And is this Sanji saying "How dare you"?
Mm-hmm.
How dare you?
Oh, just like Pound. When she's like, "Hey, remember, you came back out of personal responsibility, so don't expect anything from me. You won't get a second chance." And she asks, "By the way, where'd you get that sense of chivalry?" And we get back to the Baratier, where we see Zeph bickering or just yelling. He's like, just quoting, probably mocking his employees, saying, "Women, women, women." And he's like, "Shut up. We don't need no women cooks."
Get Patty's thumbs down in the back there.
Yeah. Well, all of them are giving the thumbs down, even Sanji.
Marsha.
And he says, like, "Hey, I'm the type that kicks an idiot to ensure that the lesson sinks in, and I don't do that to women." And Sanji, being an aloof little boy that he is like, "Well, why not? If she doesn't get it, then just kick her." And he says, "A man can't kick a woman," as apparently he must have kicked Sanji 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. He looks like a big old cone of 5-scoop ice cream.
Cactus.
Or cactus. That makes
or
more
Pokey
sense.
from Super Mario World.
Or Croquembouche. I don't know.
Croquembouche.
Zeph says, "That's been the rule since the age of the dinosaurs. Listen up. You can make all kinds of mistakes as a human being, but if you ever set foot off the path of being a proper man, then I'll cut your balls off." And I'm like, oh, pretty straightforward. And it's like, "And I'll slit my own throat." Wait, what? Why? Why are you killing yourself? And it's like, because that's how a parent owns up to his own mistake.
It's one of the most Japanese things I've seen in One Piece in a long time.
The cutting off my balls, I understand.
Choppy your pee-pee.
And slit my own throat. And dip my toes in acid. And put bamboo in my fingernails.
And spin in my own grave.
Sanji suffers from castration anxiety.
And he just says, like, "Don't be the type of person I despise. Now get back to work." And Sanji just looks on, who the amount of bumps on his head kind of makes him look very similar to Chef Zeph with his giant tall hat. See, one day the boy will become the man. One day the pupil will become the master. And then we come back to the present. He says, like, it's just how things been since the dinosaurs, big sis. And then someone comes in.
He does not say big sis, by the way.
I forgive me for putting my own little spin on it. Okay, so it's not saying. "And now Reiju looks like a pterodactyl." I'm not getting that crazy. Calm down, Zach. A servant comes in, says, "It's time to leave, Master Sanji." So, we're going to the gift exchange at Whole Cake Chateau.
Sanji is not happy at all.
Yeah, he's not happy.
Casey.
Yeah, so we are then whisked away on their magic cart pulled by the giant Germeow 66. They're wished many blessings by the not shocker soldiers. Master Sanji, bon voyage! And then we get more shots of the Vinsmoke brothers looking more smug than usual. And also they have upgraded their popped collars to even fluffier pirate shirts and capes. So yes, they're being carted in their fairy tale way.
They're still popped, the collars. Let's be fair.
Oh yeah,
That's
true. That's true. I should have just said that their cravats have evolved into full lace shirts.
Well, no, they're like long V necks. They're as broy as you could get.
But they're also like one-sided popped capes.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
they're tied around the other side of the neck. It's really weird.
Yeah, they're like Captain Marvel capes.
they're the dude bros, and these are the douche bros at the top. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Oh, the dude bros and the douche bros. Right.
Yeah, exactly. They're actual bros too. It makes perfect sense. Anyway, please, Casey.
So meanwhile, back in the seducing woods, don't get so full of yourselves. I told you, I can't eat any more wheeze. So we have full-on grotesque, bloated Luffy looking a little bit like Tetsuo at the end of Akira. Cracker
Good
says,
call.
"Ha ha ha! At your limit, huh?" And of course, Luffy is still chomping and chewing, even though we can no longer see his eyes beyond his bloated cheeks. I don't ever want to spit up a bite of food I've taken. So we can learn from this that Luffy is not fond of, or perhaps has never vomited.
Of course not.
Or maybe he
No.
did it once and hated it so much that
He's
he
one
just
of
tries to
those.
avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, yep.
Then let me pierce your belly and provide some relief. As Cracker goes in for the kill. No, I'm ending this now. And then, of course, the triumphant shout of Muscle Balloon.
And Alex, now we know the Achilles heel for Luffy in this situation is the black and white cookie man.
Oh my God! Yes.
Anyway. So we see Luffy's brand new move. It's going to be the most awesome thing you've ever imagined. Gear 4, we've seen that part. And Nami's shocked. He's huge. What is happening? What's he doing? Tank Man. So we had Bounce Man, and now we have Tank Man, which is his stuffed version, as he gurfs, which I think is a type of burp. Ed, is
He's
that
a big
correct?
cannonball.
Is a gurf a type of burp?
It's more of a flurp.
Oh, I
What are we
see.
getting?
Thank you, Ed.
Oh God.
Was that
That
a
wasn't
gurf?
even me. That was not me.
Who was that?
I don't know.
Well, now it's
I'll never tell.
Must have been me.
When are we getting Jumpman?
uh,
Oh yeah. What you mean when Luffy grows a big mustache and overalls?
this is. We'll talk a little bit more about this transformation, I guess, at the end. And Cracker's like, "Well, this is quite different from your original transformation. Can you even fight like that?" And so he tries his honey pretzel again. Luffy prepares himself.
Oh,
I love
honey.
that face.
Luffy's face there. How would you describe that face, Stephen?
Kabuki chip.
Resolute.
your best shot, right?
There we go. Thank you, Steve.
I'm the steps version of Pikeman.
So Cracker.
Bought the bracelet.
So Cracker stabs him with his honey pretzel, but instead of stabbing him, it gets absorbed in Luffy's giant booish form. And realizing, wait, is it hard? Is it soft? He can't tell. Get it? Got
Nice.
you good there, Alex? And he gets
Just about.
Trouble at home.
and he gets absorbed almost completely inside of Luffy. Okay, I'm done. And Luffy quickly exclaims, "Nami, do not soften these biscuits." And Nami, confused, says, "Okay."
Let them stay hard.
Oh, that was what Marie Antoinette said, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Steven, that's gross.
Okay, so as he gets absorbed, he says, "Witness the power of a full stomach." And Cracker gets absorbed in, and Luffy exclaims, "Gum gum," as Cracker is just like, "I can't get out. What is he gonna do? What's happening?"
I guess that stomach is now fully operational.
Now witness the full firepower of this fully armed and operational battle stomach. You may fire at will, Commander.
Ed?
He says, "Fly to the end of the world." And Cracker's teeth are all. His one tooth is busted out. A few of the teeth are busted out. And through his Cracker soldiers, and he gets all bloodied up. He's gonna fly to the end of the world, and Luffy's like, with the steam coming out of his mouth, and even Nami is completely shocked, and the homies are shocked. And One Piece will be off next week.
Boo.
No, go to the Oda's going to the spa. It's all right.
No, I loved everything about this spread, though. I thought this was great.
Yeah, this is. I've been waiting for a clobbering like this since before the time skip. This is what like we should have gotten with Doflamingo, something like
Make
this.
a character look ugly as hell and getting punched in the face.
Also, "Fly to the End of the New World" is an amazing thing to shout when you completely like clobber somebody.
Is this the first time since Wapol that Luffy defeats someone by throwing them somewhere?
By sending them flying?
Yeah, just sending them flying.
But Crocodile just fell right back down into the city.
He flew him up, but Luffy flew him out.
Technically Caesar, right?
Oh, yeah, you know what? Caesar, yeah. That used to be a staple move of Luffy's a lot more. Throwing someone somewhere, and that's it. They're gone. They're gone forever. So yeah, what did you guys think of this chapter? Casey, I want to hear from you first.
Actually, I would rather somebody else go first because I do have some opinions, but I'm not as positive on parts of the flashback, so I'd like to hear some positivity first.
All right, Alex, I think you have the most positive opinions here, so please start us off.
Okay. First, I'll start off by saying that I love the pacing of this chapter. I'm glad that we got to see Luffy's fight with Cracker resolved. It was really awesome. We got to see Nami do something that was super awesome. We got to see what Broper and Carrot were up to. But I think what y'all are probably talking about is the Sanji flashback, which I thought was really great. And it says a lot about Sanji and a lot about his relationship with Zeph. And when he said, which is my favorite panel this entire chapter, when he says it's just the style from the Age of the Dinosaurs, completely parroting what Zeph told him. But when you look at
completely
Reiju,
seriously too, like he's being serious.
Yeah, that is a super Sanji thing to do. He always says some goofy ass shit. And it just with the most serious tone, and like if you look at Reiju, she's just like, what? Like, what does that even mean? And Sanji does this kind of thing all the time, and this like it's basically like this every stupid thing that Sanji says has just been beat into him by Zeph, like, and we're never given context for it except for this.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's such a silly line. It's so dumb, but because we're given context for it, it says so much about Sanji, his relationship with Zeph, and the kind of person that he is.
I just want to say, this is how you turn out when you're shown nothing but like hatred all of your life, and then you're taken in by an old man with weird views about gender, and like super like no, it's like Zeph is such an old Japanese man with his ritual suicide threats and like super like almost offensive chivalry. Like you can imagine, like Sanji hasn't known like a positive environment, so this is his positive environment. So he internalizes these beliefs completely, and they turn out and they make him kind of weird with like how he's been with the whole chivalry thing, like for like half the series at this point. So
well, here's the thing, though.
It kind of it makes sense to me.
Well, this was also mentioned in an SBS. I think someone had pointed out on Twitter that a long time ago, Oda said, "Oh, he learned this stuff from Zeph."
Yeah, this had been kind of addressed before, and if they had made like a huge thing out of it, like I don't know, like if it was something they learned from his mom or something like that, that would have been too I don't know, like too overblown for what it is, I think, and way easier to predict, I think.
Before we get to the counterpoint, I want to hear what Stephen's thoughts were as well.
My thoughts.
Yeah, your thoughts.
About this little page of flashback.
Yeah, let's start with the flashback, then we'll talk more generally.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I would say I was kind of mixed on it. Like I was expecting, this kind of took me by surprise. I did not necessarily see that it was just going to be a little throwback to Zeph. I had been priming myself for like, okay, it's going to be some message that, you know, his mom left with him that, you know, we're more likely to see at some point later on in this arc. And I wasn't necessarily waiting for, a Zeph thing. And I guess part of it was just that, we saw Sanji's relationship with Zeph, and that was already given to us way back at the start of the series. And the stuff, whatever his backstory is with his mom is something different. And I guess you can definitely extrapolate this lesson that Zeph is giving him from the character that we know of Zeph, but I wouldn't say that it was necessarily like made really apparent in the original Baradier arc to begin with. So it felt a little bit like some kind of retroactive story stuff to me. But there are parts about it that I really like. I like the fact that this was a moral lesson that he internalized from a parental figure that he actually looks up to and actually models. That this and the difference between a judge who tells him, okay, you are my secret shame, don't tell anyone about our relationship, versus Zeph, who tells him, okay, if you do this thing that I find disgusting, then that will be my shame, and I will slit my own throat. Well, Sanji takes in this lesson too, and he uses it as a kind of a life guide thing. It's something that he willingly takes to, and that I think was meant to be a counterpoint to what he had with Zeph, or what he had with Judge. Another thing that I did like about it, and I don't know if anybody noticed this, but so Zeph tells him, the man can't kick a woman. It's been the rule since the age of the dinosaurs. So Zeph says this like, this is just how it's always been for ages, since time immemorial. But what Sanji says to Reiju is it's just the style from the age of the dinosaurs. And that is actually the difference in the phrasing there comes from the Japanese. He's basically saying that, yeah, this is, this lesson is from the age of the dinosaurs. It is not something that has been passed down since then as like the way it's always been. It's just he recognizes this is a very antiquated thing, and I found that to be interesting because it's kind of owning up to the the weird sort of out of time nature of this thing that he's it's a nod from Oda that this isn't necessarily like the way that things actually work now. It's part of this old kind of more romanticized way of life, and that I did find interesting and kind of neat, I guess. It does fit into Oda's thing. He doesn't necessarily believe 100%. I think Oda himself doesn't necessarily believe every single viewpoint that he presents in the series, but there's a part of him in a lot of this, and you can intuit that from like the way that he depicts women in a lot of other parts of the story. But I don't know. I guess I kind of like that he is willing to address that, even if it's not in a super direct way. So yeah, I don't know. I've just been talking for like 10 minutes, so somebody else go.
All right, Casey.
Yeah, so I certainly hear all these things, and I do agree. And I hadn't considered the difference in phrasing between Sanji and Zeph's version, which I think is actually a really nice little moment now that you mention it. I guess I'm perhaps a victim of my own heightened expectations of what this could be. Mm-hmm. And I really, because I saw some feedback from the first episode I was on, and the feedback was that one of the listeners didn't feel that there was any need to justify Sanji's chivalry because you don't need a reason to be nice to women. And I think that listener's heart is very much in the right place there. But the way Sanji has been characterized up to this point is someone who's willing to completely risk his life or the lives of his friends for these convictions. And I guess for me, like, it being kind of like a one-off conversation with Zeph doesn't feel like it's a grand enough thing to justify the depths that he's quite taken it to.
I mean, I also have mixed feelings about this page in general, but I think, especially with what Steven said, I think it's an ode to what he says, to what Zeph says at the very end there, because that's how a parent owns up to his mistake. And I think it's kind of that connection he has to Zeph is represented through these principles that Zeph passed on, however fleetingly. And he could
What do you mean
recognize
fleetingly? He was with him for like 10 years.
No, but I'm saying, however, like this one conversation, however,
Yeah.
so we don't know how many times this conversation happened, but
Actually, thinking on this for a second, is this the first time that Zeph refers to himself as Sanji's parent?
exactly.
Outside of,
I
mean, or maybe when Sanji left Bratier, I don't remember quite well, but I think this might be the first time that Zeph explicitly said this.
I mean, for me, I think it's something that it's his connection to Zeph, and it's his connection to someone that loves him more than the principle itself, which I think explains what Steven said at the end. It's like, yeah, I know this doesn't really make complete sense, but this is something important to me because of the person who taught it to me. It's a little bit of a stretch, but Casey, keep going. Sorry to...
Well, no, it's fine. And I agree. I really like the part of this that is that Zeph is, as we've known since Baratier, the father that Sanji never had. Like, I really like that part of this. Well, but it's just, I guess I kind of expected how grand and deeply rooted this is for Sanji to be a lesson that he didn't just learn from other men. Like, I mean, we've seen that, that the only people that were nice to him in Germa were his sickly mother and the sister that doesn't beat him up sometimes. But I guess I just expected some female character, be it a character we knew or a character we didn't, to play at least a more significant role in this. And I understand that this is something that he's learned from Zeph and he's taken from Zeph, and that Zeph was his everything, and so of course he's going to hold on to this because that's his bond to him. But I guess I expected it to be more because it seemed like it was sort of Sanji's central mystery for a long time.
Maybe if he'd actually learned something from a woman, his ideas about women wouldn't be so fucked up.
Yeah,
precisely.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a mystery though, just because it's I don't know. I feel like there's other bigger mysteries in One Piece that deserve way more time to be spent on something like that. Like, I actually preferred this over something more substantial, specifically for pacing reasons. Like, this arc in general is just moving at really, really quick pace, and I think spending too much time on Sanji flashbacks might slow it down a bit.
Steve, I want to hear your thoughts. I know you had pretty impassioned thoughts, at least if Twitter's any indication.
All I did was just post to Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Which made my day, because anything Curb Your Enthusiasm related.
Well, it's sad because I spent like a good maybe 10 minutes or so thinking like, what's the appropriate response? And I thought after 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'll just use that Larry David gif. Because I'm torn. I see the arguments on both sides. I think I was setting my expectations a little too high, thinking, oh, there must have been some sort of traumatic event because this is One Piece and everything has a backstory. But at the same time, you got to think of how Sanji acts, like how just over the top he is about women. He's so gaga. And I think it kind of, when I think about it, that a woman would not have that kind of influence on him, because I think being stuck on a ship, a restaurant with just a bunch of dudes, and Sanji, just being interested in women, it would drive him insane because he never gets to see any ladies. So I guess he's over the top. I think so. Naturally, I think this behavior comes from that. In terms of like the chivalry and not hitting women, I don't know. I feel like I got the sense that Zeph was kind of saying, oh, we don't kick a woman because we can't, instead of don't kick a woman because we shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's how and that just might be Steven's choice in translating. I don't know.
Yes, Steven.
It kind of just feels like, there's some sort of technicality, they have diplomatic immunity or something, Yeah, and I think that's what kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, it makes Zeph almost sound like he begrudgingly likes women. It's like, well, they're the only people I can't abuse, so I guess they're all right.
I completely forgot about the SBS. I'm kind of glad you guys brought that back up. Because this also kind of feels like it's just a little nugget he threw in there. Like when he explained everyone's devil fruit abilities back in Impel Down. It kind of just feels like that. It's just like a little one-off thing.
So wait, Steve, were you suggesting that on the Baratier Sanji just heard a lot of locker room talk?
You see, I
beat me to it.
I knew when we're talking about gender politics in a weekend where
no one respects women more than Zeph. I'm really torn. I kind of want to say wait and see because Oda is very different now with his storytelling with the flashbacks. It's stuff sprinkled throughout. But I get the sense of feeling this is it. Like Oda's like, let me just throw this in there and let's just get back to the story.
Well, I mean, like as far as this is probably concerned, this might just be it. But honestly, I think we still have some stuff to see still.
I very much feel like this is a scene we could have seen back in Baratier, except for that final panel about good parenting wouldn't have hit as hard. So I had to wait.
I think just even the thing he says about the age of the dinosaurs, like when you put something that weird that he says into context, like if we got that scene in Baratier and then Sanji says this thing from like hundreds and hundreds of chapters ago, it's likely people aren't going to remember that. It's like when he says weird stuff like when he's fighting Bon Clay and he says people are heart, and I just imagine that's something that Zeph said to him at one point and just beat it into him at one point.
Sure.
One point or another.
I just want to see more flashbacks with Zeph. I want to see more of this relationship. Like, because we got to think about it. Hey, this was the whole reason why he refused to fight a woman to save one of his crewmates. The stigma of not upsetting his parent figure. So I'm really hoping this isn't it. I hope we see more. I want to see more of Zeph's influence on Sanji to truly justify this and not feel like this was just thrown in there just so people would stop asking.
Well, I'll also add to that this arc could present an opportunity to get over that. I don't know how or in what way, but perhaps he'll finally be able to, like, if there's a real enemy he has to beat in order to save his crew or someone else, he could actually step up and do it.
It's the year of Sanji.
It's the year of Sanji. I mean, also just in this, I think Zeph, not in as bad a way as the locker room behavior, but also represents a very old way of thinking, as we said, which I just personally don't completely agree with. Some of the spirit of it is, in the right place, but I think women should be chefs also. So, and he shouldn't have to abuse people to make them good chefs. So
there's also the idea of all the collective responsibility of taking all the the ritual suicide aspect of it.
That like kind of took me out of it for a second. I mean, when you talk about cutting off balls and slitting their own throat, I'm like, what is happening right now?
It's like something out of a samurai movie.
So Ed, since you haven't had a lot of chance to talk, what were your thoughts on the rest of the chapter?
Oh, I loved it. I especially I got what I wanted with Chopper and Carrot in there, and Luffy. Like, this whole fight is so ridiculous. Like, I had like a goofy smile on my face the entire time. Like, start with Nami and King Baum's mouth, all the stupid tree puns, which are stupid, but they're the spice of life right there. That's great. I like it. But yeah, and Luffy adapting his Gear Forth to literally blow Cracker away. That's some creativity right there, and I stand in awe of it. But I really enjoyed it.
Alex, what were your thoughts on the rest of the chapter?
Loved it. The final blow I thought was incredible. Really made an impact on me, and it was a great fitting end to the fight. Like I said, I love that Nami was useful. She contributed to the fight in a huge way, and I think this was her first time declaring to an enemy that Luffy's going to be king of the pirates, which I think is something that is of note.
Agreed. Yeah, Casey.
I think this chapter is all about that finishing blow, as has been said. Oda does some of the best final attacks in the business. And this is no different. Very impactful. A really great way of dispensing of Cracker. But the fact that he told him to fly away to the end of the new world makes me feel like we'll see Cracker at least in a cameo again somewhere much farther down the line.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, I like the chapter. I do have my misgivings about, I don't know, how casually dispensed that bit of flashback was. I felt like it could be something a bit more meaty, but in the interest of pacing, perhaps, we'll just let it go.
Steve. Or Steven.
Let's see.
Steve, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
You said Steve first. I think other than that, the only thing I really add that this was a very satisfying defeat of Cracker. Very like I pointed out, very over the top. I think I really didn't appreciate Luffy's stuffed version of Tank Man all too much at the beginning, but I think it's pretty funny because Gear 4 is a very fierce looking Luffy, and it's just got these big chipmunk cheeks.
Looks like a cannonball,
and it's a very cartoony defeat. Just like I said, Cracker was drawn very ugly looking, and just it's really over the top. I was very satisfied with it. I wasn't even sure if Luffy was even going to defeat Cracker, but this was cool because Oda really built up how strong these biscuits were. So the fact that he went through what looks to be at least 3 biscuit soldiers has got to really hurt.
Not to mention all the ones that Luffy ate.
Yeah. So I really like that. It was a satisfying defeat of a very strong character. This is believable to me. In
a very humorous way.
Yeah, it's it's still it's One Piece. Still embrace the humor.
Yeah.
Like I said, satisfying. Flashback. I've made my peace with it. It's got its goods, got its bads. I shouldn't use those in plural. A nice chapter nonetheless.
And Steven.
I guess one last thing that I did not get to slip in at the end of the flashback discussion is just that I think it should definitely be reiterated again that the Baradier is absolutely not depicted as a place that a child should be raised, because they're all pirate cooks and just kind of ruffians and scoundrels. So I think that's part of the environment that is relevant to this discussion. But aside from that, I agree with everyone else that the rest of the chapter was really, really good. Just very well paced. Really funny stuff. I kind of this is kind of a reiteration of what I said last week. But I love the use of humor as a deciding factor in this fight. And this is basically the perfect time to do it in the arc because it's kind of one of the first big obstacle characters. And so it's a chance for Oda to get really silly. It doesn't have to be a super serious fight at this point in the story. But it is also just, very viscerally fun to watch. And I love that part of it. And that was definitely something that I, thought we needed at this point in the arc with all the Seducing Wood stuff. If this is the end of the Seducing Wood story, I will be, very happy with how it wrapped up, basically.
So with that, I think we oak to move on to the next branch of the podcast. Thank you. Let's move on.
Zach, you need to leave.
It's time for the Piece Together segment where we saw down your branches and I'm out of tree puns, guys. Steven, can you help or no?
That wasn't even a pun.
No, it wasn't even close. Let's start with emails.
It's Piece Together.
We're gonna rub your nose in it, Steven.
Come on, guys! Don't leave us pining for more.
You guys are so sappy.
I just soiled myself.
Zach, you're the one at fault here. You're the root of this evil.
Okay, let's leave this alone and
we need to branch on. We need to branch onto some other type of discussion.
I think we oak to. First, comes First question comes from Ronald, who said, "Hey guys, I've been watching One Piece, the Funimation version with a younger sibling. They went through the entire run, spoiler-free, almost. So an odd situation, unbeknownst to him, happened. And so after they watched the episode where Ace dies, and apparently back around the beginning of Thriller Bark, one of his siblings' friends were talking about One Piece and thought she had caught up already and thought she already knew about Ace dying. But this was actually the only piece of information she had relating to Marineford, so she was in total suspense and so on and so forth. So the question is, are there any spoilers that you guys have heard or seen as you were catching up to the series that because of lack of information about what you heard, you still ended up being surprised by it as if you hadn't heard it? Casey, I feel like I have to throw this one to you first since you just recently went through everything.
Okay, yeah, so I was going to say, I do think Ace's death is the hardest thing to avoid. Just because people kept asking me, like, have you gotten to his death yet? And they wouldn't say who. But at this point, like, I know it's somebody significant. I guess I didn't expect, is the question of what I expected or what I didn't?
So something you actually had spoiled, but still was just as surprising as if you hadn't heard it before.
Okay, well, there's two. The low-hanging fruit here being that I had actually specifically, after Impel Down, asked people not to tell me anything about Bon Clay. And I said, if Bon Clay comes back, I don't want to know until I get there. And then like a dozen people tweeted me that, don't worry, there's a Dex of the World that, so, but I was still excited when I saw it. And the second thing was the death of Whitebeard, which I had kind of heard about, but it still felt really affecting because I guess it's, if Whitebeard is at this point in the series, he's the strongest man in the world. Like he's a view of your dad when you realize that your dad is mortal.
Yep.
And it still hits like a tank. So I think regardless of knowing in advance that was coming, I was still shocked enough when it actually happened.
I have an answer quick. Ed, the first scene he ever showed me of One Piece, we've talked about this at one of the panels, was Crocodile getting defeated by Luffy, but still just as satisfying. Watching that.
It's a really good scene.
Yeah, it's a good scene. It didn't really spoil it for me. Anyone else?
Yeah. So when I was getting into One Piece, I think I'd only seen up to maybe up through Arlong at the time, or rather not up to Arlong. I had just gotten through Logtown, and I bought the animation logbook, which has content in it up through Drum Island. So it has a bunch of really neat illustrations, of course, and a bunch of screenshots. And I saw most of Baroque works before I even got to it, a good chunk of Baroque works. And I was I saw these these character designs, and I was blown away, and I had no context for it. Something similar happened to me, like with Dragon Ball. Like when I was in the first stages of my interest in Dragon Ball, that was the early days of the internet, and there were pictures of like Cell and Dr. Gero, and I was like, whoa, who are these characters? That's crazy. And because there was limited information at the time, I ended up being surprised later. And the cool thing about getting into One Piece so early, like that, this was before I think Shonen Jump had even gotten a hold of it. So like finding One Piece information on the internet was a commodity. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't even look up who these characters were. It was kind of fun in that regard.
Anyone else?
I want to try. It's the crappiest answer for last, but I just want to chime in that I think I had more of that experience with Dragon Ball, and I think because at the time less information was available. So despite reading up on some of the future stuff happening in that series, I didn't necessarily know how it happened, so I was still surprised by a lot of events. But for my time getting in the series, stuff like Robin joining or Vivi being a prevalent character was kind of spoiled to me, but not necessarily surprised me. I've been trying to think really hard if there was something, but I sadly am going to say no.
I actually have one more.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I knew in advance who CP9 were because I used to be a anime forum goer, and that was running around the same time anime forums still existed in a larger form they do now.
And 9 years ago?
Yep, and that CP9 reveal page was
Signatures.
oh my god, it was the signature image of the year. Like, everybody had it in their signatures. So
including me.
Yeah, there you go. So I had seen this and I knew it, but it was still very effective because it's just such a well done page that even knowing it was coming, I was still really excited to see it.
Then there are things like that. Well, I was trying to think of, like, what would it be like for someone who is reading week to week as, like, Skypiea is happening? So to be, getting into the series during, like, the beginning of Penny's Lobby, like when I was, and to know, like, Sky, you can go there. It's possible. Like, that was never a question. Like, oh, that's the arc. They go there for 45 episodes or whatever. I wonder if it would have been that much more enjoyable if it hadn't been that way. But, I try not to think about that stuff.
Let's move on.
Really quick. Yeah, I think one of the first images I ever saw for One Piece, because, when I got back home from Greece after, checking out for the first time, I just scoured the internet for just anything I could. And I saw the cover for Color Walk, and I knew all the characters except for Chopper, and I was like, what the heck is that teddy bear thing? What is that, a crew member? I don't know if I like that. And and then the rest is history, of course.
Next question comes from friend of the podcast, Liam Tasker. I was thinking about the world of One Piece and was wondering, what is it actually called? Is it just called Earth? Is it something nameless? Is it something that'll be revealed at the end of the series? Is it unimportant? What do you guys think?
It'll be called One Piece.
It's possible, I guess.
Oh, God. Oh, man. I just started a bad theory, didn't I?
One Piece is the whole plan. It really fits into my theory of, like, moving continents and stuff.
Maybe One Piece is the power to harness the planet. Make it your own, literally.
The power is yours.
One Piece is outer heaven.
Okay, any other... Stephen, has it ever been... I'm trying to remember if it's ever been mentioned specifically, like a name for it.
No.
Yeah, I can't think of one either. I think
perhaps we'll learn it when they go to the moon.
Next one comes from Tony.
Oh, there it is. It says it right there. One Piece.
Tony says, "Hey guys, I was wondering what the dead mom count is up to now in One Piece. All jokes aside, do you think that Oda has used this trope too much, or do you think it's been used sufficiently to this point?"
As Oda says, mother is the opposite of adventure, so pretty much all the moms have to die. But, except for Luffy's, by that logic.
Wait, Oda
the only one.
So who are the living moms? Big Mom?
He
specifically mentioned that Luffy's mother is alive. That's one we definitely know.
That's two moms.
The woman who runs the restaurant or bar on Shell Island or wherever the hell the first island we get to.
What's her name from Water 7?
Makino now is the mother.
Makino, but you're thinking of Rika's mom.
Yeah, Rika. Yeah, Rika's mom.
But if her child ever goes on an adventure, she's doomed.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kokoro?
Yeah, it's not
Kokoro.
Yeah, Kokoro, I was going to say. Does Kureha count?
Yeah, I think.
Does she have...
Well, they're motherly to Don, like motherly figures.
Yeah.
I mean, Belmere did get sent to the dungeon, so she's technically alive, obviously.
Wow, 4Kids show. Topical.
Yeah, topical stuff there. I'll go to the next question. It comes from Michael, who says, "Been listening since way back. Love you guys. Congratulations to Alex for becoming a full-fledged host. Two questions. One for the podcast, one for Steve.
Whoa.
So you could guess probably the topic it's on. First one for everyone. Do you think that Heracles was going to the wedding that Shanks and his crew were going to on the certain island? I know that you guys said that he's in Film Gold and that he cameos in it, but I was just guessing that he could really be going to the wedding that Shanks was going to.
Why Heracles?
I don't know. I like the idea that Heracles is actually someone super important.
Heracles is everyone's mutual friend.
Oh, he's here. Do you
He's
know
that
him?
certain friend.
The question for Steve was, he was wondering what you thought of the brand split in WWE.
Oh, yes. The brand split in WWE, very topical to One Piece these days.
I didn't know if it was
great.
or not.
SmackDown, well, the reason why SmackDown's so great is because the new head writer for it was the former head writer for NXT. So it's
Accurate.
It's booked very well. I think they use their roster sufficiently. All the feuds have meaning. They have reasons. Raw is a bit of a mess because it's too long of a show. They have so many stars, and a lot of them they're not using because they don't know how to.
The goal of the show is not to get any of the wrestlers over. It's to get the McMahons over.
Yeah, like Stephanie is on way too much. I really don't like Stephanie. I think she's overrated as a TV character. I think all the
give you 10 more seconds.
The tag division and the women's division are all centered around like the same three people. And
Steven, what's on Reddit?
I wish balance.
Thanks, Mr. McMagma.
All right, we'll go to Reddit, and we will start with Reverse Mountain, who says, "Hey, OPP, love the show. Just wanted to ask, with the reappearance of the exploding bracelets in the departure panel, do you think Sanji will be able to remove them, and what would be the most entertaining way to do so?"
I feel like he's going to need some help there. I feel like he would have done it if he could.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is that it's like, he doesn't know yet that the crew is coming to rescue him. So I feel like they're kind of unnecessary at this point because he's facing up to, his past. He's not trying to work his way out of this. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, are they just going to have him like walk down the aisle with these handcuffs on?
Yes.
That seems.
I don't think they care at all. Remember, the person who gave it to them was Baron Tamago from Big Mom's crew, so they don't care.
Yeah.
Germa certainly doesn't care. So
yeah, that's true.
Pudding would care. Poor girl.
Poor Pudding. Yes.
Poor Pudding.
Gladius Wing 0 wants to know, what do we think of Season 8 Voyage 3 with its fair share of iconic moments? I don't know. Has anyone picked that up yet?
That's the latest set, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm starting to lose count.
I saw some of those moments.
I saw all of them. I think I was commenting on Twitter. I was like, "Wow, this last batch of Marineford episodes are like the best of the whole arc." Of course, like it drags a lot, but I think like Akainu, we get to see so much of him, and he's all magma, so he's rendered like with these bright, warm colors, and then with the hint of black for like the shadows. He always pops, and I think the episodes from Ace's death to Whitebeard's death, I think are paced extremely well. Really good episodes. I had a lot of fun watching those again.
He might be talking about the voices, though.
Yeah, well, and Black Northwind also adds, "What is your opinion of young Sabo's voice?"
I just heard a lot of it out of context, which is the trailers. I'd rather wait to watch the episodes before I could judge.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good, though. I like it.
I like that the Blackbeard pirates sound like cartoon characters. I don't think we get enough of that. I kind of, back in the 90s, and I think Alex and Casey could definitely attest to this. Like there was a lot of hammy acting in anime back in the day, and
yes.
A little too cartoony in some places, but now I'm starting to miss it a little bit. It's like all the actors are fine, like they're capable actors, but sometimes some characters just sound like just regular people, and I kind of want them to push it a little bit.
Yeah, like I forget what I was watching, but somebody had a voice that just sounded like just regular person talking, and I'm like, I don't know.
I had that thought too. And we might be thinking of the same character.
It might be Shachi or Penguin or one of them.
I don't necessarily know about that. I think I enjoyed how they sounded. I thought they sounded just fine. I think it was someone like the Whitebeard division commander.
Oh yeah, those guys are almost throwaway anyway. But I mean, like, give them some sort of a voice. I don't know. Like,
especially because if there's any series you can play big, it's One Piece.
Exactly.
Fair.
But if I could attest to this too. Not trying to brag, but being in the booth with Joel directing, that's exactly what the direction is, which is One Piece. It's like bigger, just bigger, more over the top. This is One Piece. So like the thought process is there. I think it's just in terms of just the actors. Says one of the guys that just, played some background characters, just doing his voice. So
hey, you played some important characters there, and so did I.
I'll give up then.
All right. On Mask wants to know, do you guys think Sanji has ever used his Diablo Jam to light a cigarette or a campfire? Being able to set yourself on fire without hurting yourself seems like a useful ability to have for a chain-smoking chef.
Yes.
He should, yeah. If he hasn't, that's just, a waste.
I would say campfire, yes. Cigarette, no, because Sanji's all about like the proper experience. Like he has to, flip the lighter out and go with the cigarette over his mouth. It's got to look cool. Like
he needs the product placement. He needs it to zoom in on the DuPont lighter, available for $5,000.
Noah's
for
Ark
a limited time, but not anymore.
I like the idea that he lights campfires with the Diablo Jambe, because that implies that it's a certain kind of clean burn that he needs for cooking on. It's better. It's even cleaner than propane.
There you go.
It's funny that he can light a campfire with his foot and then stomp it out with the other one.
What's the next question, Steven?
Next is from Prince Cheddar, who says, I have an idea for why Reiju may have gotten enhancements that were different from her brothers. Let's see. I think it's been established that Reiju is the eldest because of her name having 0 in it. Wouldn't that make her Judge's heir? So she could have been given enhancements they lacked and vice versa. The boys, being younger than Reiju, weren't going to be rulers, so Judge valued them only as potential military commanders. Reiju didn't need the exoskeleton because she wasn't expected to fight, but because of her higher status, not her gender. This could also explain why Reiju is the most emotionally normal of the siblings, aside from the failure Sanji. Judge felt that as the future ruler, she would need a more balanced personality for diplomacy, for example, so she was allowed to feel things that the brothers, who were only meant for battle, were not. What do you think?
I like the idea that's being presented here, but I think that her number is 0 specifically because she wasn't male. So I think 1 is the male heir.
Therefore out of the line of succession.
I think that both. I don't know. I think both sides are thinking too much about it. Like,
that's quite possible.
Honestly, like could just be first. I don't know. That's and as far as the ability to rule, I think that I don't know. I don't see that, like, Judge being the kind of person he is would probably want a male heir. But
I should point out too that in Japanese, like traditional Japanese sort of naming standards, the practice of like numbering the kids, because it's sort of like saying junior or something. There's Ichiro is like the first son, or Jiro would be like second son. Saburo is third son. I don't think there's really an equivalent of that for females, and that probably has to do with kind of like the traditional family roles, where the male heirs, like their pecking order is very important, but the females are not, the leaders of the family or whatever. So that may factor into that as well.
I actually subscribe to Prince Cheddar's theory for kind of the reason why Stephen said is she does have a number. I mean, it depends on your mathematical philosophy with the number 0. But I think it makes complete sense from what we've seen of Judge that Reiju would be the appointed heir. I think it also explains a lot of Reiju's attitudes in general, especially in the present day, where she has more sympathy, but is certainly driven, I think, even more so than her brothers. I feel like this wedding is extremely important for her as well. This is actually something that has been brewing in my head since we had their introductions. So I like it. This is actually probably one of my favorite fan theories we've had in a while.
Okay. Let's go on to Nivers, who wants to know, is Reiju going to be the crying princess of this arc? Please answer in the form of a Simpsons reference. And here's my Simpsons reference. This is you. Ah, my eye! I'm not supposed to get pudding in it. Because pudding is the crying princess of the arc.
Can't beat that one. I'm sorry.
Well, I heard that your mom went to a restaurant and ate all the food in the restaurant, and they had to close the restaurant. Big Mom is the crying princess of the arc. She's very upset when she doesn't get her way.
That is true.
All right.
Yeah,
well, let's see here. I went to France and met one nice person. I think Baron Tamago is going to be the crying princess of the arc.
My children need wine.
That's right.
They put antifreeze in the wine. Valentine Menace wants to know, with the call-in shows, I was wondering, how do international listeners call in without international credit? I guess the answer would be to call on Skype, right?
Skype, yeah.
Skype.
We were having Skype difficulties on our last call-in show. We'll announce our next call-in show relatively soon, hopefully. I don't think we're going to be ready for this coming week, but probably the next break Oda takes, hopefully around
Next
then.
month, probably.
Yeah, probably next month.
We have enough Matsuricon content for now.
Yeah, we have a ton of stuff, and hopefully
Matsuri content
to give you guys. So we'll let you guys know, and hopefully Skype will work, so you will not need to pay any money. Worst comes to worst, you could always use Reddit like you just did, or email, or piece the tweet. We'll answer your questions. Go ahead.
All right. My Pants Are on Fire says, as far as I know, it was never explained what the 66 in Germa 66 stands for, right? Do you think it could be some sort of code for something that will be revealed later? Here in Germany, you're restricted in most states to, I guess he means to not use certain numbers in the license plate of your car that are codes in the Nazi scene. For example, 18, 88, 28, and 444. 18 stands for AH, which the initials of a certain leader figure from our country's darkest past. 88 for the Nazi salute, HH. 28 for, in Germany, the illegal organization Blood and Honor. And 444 translates to Germany for the Germans, DDD. Does the 6 have a certain meaning in Japanese culture that would fit the Germa theme? And those are all very interesting things, but I think the answer to this is that their eyebrows look like 6s. I mean, was that what everyone else was thinking?
I'm not actually sure, but I think that's where I was sort of going with it. Or initially I thought that's how many soldiers there were, but
right.
But then again, that was before I knew it was called 66 versus 66. So yeah, the eyebrows make a lot of sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's in the skulls, as I noticed in this week's chapter.
True. Yeah. Well, it's part of their visual design. Harvard grad wants to know, hey, OPP, I was looking through your Redbubble store and saw the Banana Me shirt with Eneru on it. I like it, but I don't get it. Is there some story behind this? Or is there something about Eneru I've forgotten? Thanks.
I'll say first, there's an episode named Banana Me in season 2 or 3 of the One Piece podcast. You could go back and check for the full story. Steve, are you there? I think you'd probably be in the best position.
Yeah, he's a god, and he wants a banana. And when he wants a banana, he's like, "Hey, banana me." No, actually, it's more of that. It's this reference to a different line.
It's a take that would have fit the lip flaps better, but it would have been too ridiculous.
Yeah,
basically.
And in the English version of One Piece, when Eneru asks for one of his servants to peel him a banana, it was a joke line that they threw in, and they thought it was great, but it was a little too ridiculous, so they cut it.
But the great thing is we had J. Michael Tatum say that line here, who played Eneru in the English version, and we also had the Japanese voice actor who was on the podcast also say that.
That's right.
So that
he was very confused.
So confused. I was not there, but Jammer was. So we could next time we have him on, we'll.
So he could take the blame for it, not us.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, who is this guy? But he was enthusiastic. It's fantastic. So if you want to listen to that, the episode's Banana Him. We have an interview with the Japanese voice actor for Enaru as well. So those are definitely worth it. And it's just a great design from Steve. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Smiley Jr. has our requisite straw hat question. Which would the straw hats, which house would they go in at Hogwarts?
These are the questions people love on Piece Together.
Oh, yeah.
That one specific guy.
Chopper's a Hufflepuff.
Yeah, it's clear, yeah. Luffy's got to be a Gryffindor.
Yep.
Robin's Ravenclaw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Obviously.
Zoro is a Slytherin.
Probably. Nami probably as well, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I think Sanji is a Gryffindor. He's got that occasionally misplaced sense of valor.
Usopp is a Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
As is Brooke, I think.
Actually, I could even see Usopp as a Ravenclaw, but...
What is Frankie?
Frankie is probably a good...
Wait, what are we missing?
Frankie is Robot House.
Robot House?
We can't get better than that. That's the answer. Is that everyone?
Right.
Brooke? Did we say Brooke?
Yeah, he's goofy.
He's
though.
one of the ghosts, anyway. I mean,
Yeah. He's too old for school.
Well, I mean, the ghosts, I guess, were for specific houses, but whatever.
He's the nearly headless Nick of One Piece.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is literally with the stupid jokes and everything. Yeah. What's the next question?
All right, Hockey Scooch, we actually got a few questions on this, coincidentally. Just kind of a check-in. Now that we have gotten more information about the Vinsmokes, what do you think Brooke's secret is? Since I think we're all assuming it has something to do with the Vinsmoke family.
I think we got a question about this at the meetup, or someone asked me about this. I think it's likely that he worked for Germa in some capacity in the distant past. And it probably was not a good experience, seeing how Germa is.
This would have been before they developed the clone technology, like early on in his life.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? The thing is, Germa and the Vinsmokes apparently own the whole North Blue. Let's not forget, and that's where Brooke is from. So,
Yeah, they're old money.
They're old money. Yeah, it's exactly. Did anyone else have any other?
I mean, I guess I haven't seen anything that would necessarily require us to like revise our educated guess at this point that, Brooke being an old captain, a royal guard at one point, would have come across or, have to face the Vinsmoke family in a professional capacity.
Oh, yeah. He could have been on the losing
Right.
side of that, yeah.
Right.
I forgot about that even being a possibility, yeah. I'm sure he was involved in some way against or for Germa in the past. It would be interesting to hear how. What's next?
He knows what Judge's eyebrows look like.
Joey had the best theory about the eyebrows, and you can check that out on his Twitter. Just the fact that it's curlier than all the rest.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Wets22 says it was great to have met everyone at the meetup. And continues, nice to see Luffy needing Nami's help. A couple questions. Do you think that it's just convenient storytelling that Oda did not have Cracker use hockey when stabbing Luffy's belly in this chapter? And do you think the explosive bracelets were padding, since the plot device went from Sanji losing his hands to losing Zeph very quickly?
Good meeting you as well, Wets.
Multiple lines of attack. Never put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always good to have a backup plan.
But, the part about hockey, though, that is a little less confusing. But it is something that would be more, more likely to happen with someone who has been extremely reliant on their devil fruit in the past, and that might be Cracker. But it is kind of a lapse.
I think hockey just gets in the way of Oda's punchline.
That too.
Yeah. Actually, this will be our last question because this is also similar to this. Ogru said, I've seen some comments from fans disappointed with the humorous nature of the end of the fight and how we don't see how Luffy was able to escape after using Gear 4th the first time. My gripe with it is that I'd like to see Luffy take down a strong opponent without help, even though I love Nami was involved. Do you see Luffy taking on any top tier opponents without help in the future?
Kaido.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean that's how he's done almost all of the big fights. So, yeah, for sure, I could still see him doing that. It's just that's the way of shonen manga, in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we kind of made it clear, at least as far as what we thought about the fight, is that we all kind of loved that it was a goofy ending.
I like that Nami was involved too.
Yeah.
We mentioned that earlier, but it's just nice to see Nami involved
Yeah,
as well.
but it's also been a long time since we've had like classic One Piece silliness in a fight,
Exactly.
and like Dressrosa was so serious. I mean, like I guess Senior Pink and Frankie's fight was pretty silly, but
Yeah.
but I'm like, Luffy he should be the harbinger for all this, like he's this is the same guy who fought Crocodile seriously and also tried to eat him in the same fight. Like, I'm really glad that this arc is sort of bringing that classic One Piece creativity back into the fray that we haven't seen for so long.
So I think that concludes us. Oh, go ahead, Casey.
I was gonna say, I just think it's really nice that a battle against a character that is as overpowered as Cracker could be can be ended so simplistically. I don't think every fight has to be a life or death excursion.
Yeah, I think Alex and I were saying last week, or maybe it was just I wasn't on the podcast last week, so it might have just been Alex.
You were there briefly.
I was there briefly. That's true. Saying that I really hoped that he really hoped that the Cracker fight ended this week, and it did, and I'm satisfied with how it did too.
Yeah, it was a very good length for what it is. If it were to kept going, then I would have been very exasperated.
And if it keeps going, somehow he bounces back, I'll be very annoyed.
But the fight was also a really, really, really great way to kill time.
Yeah.
Where like 12 hours have passed, which is great because we can go straight to the wedding. That's fantastic. Normally, whenever we take Luffy out of the fray, it's usually because he's stuck somewhere.
Well, I don't even think this is the wedding. Isn't it just the exchanging of gifts? Like, I don't know how that works, or like these super formal weddings. I assume it's like the rehearsal dinner and the all that.
Do you know anything about that, Stephen? Japanese customs.
You know what? I don't know for sure. I don't know. I could definitely see this being like this is the ceremonial event that we do, and then maybe a few hours later they have the wedding reception, or it could be the next day. I don't know.
I have a feeling it's not the same day, but we'll
maybe
find
not.
out,
Yeah.
Either way, we're chugging along pretty well, like at a very very good pace, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
How long have Rabbit and Chobro been running?
Rabbit.
All night.
Rabbit?
Right.
Did you
Carrot.
call her Rabbit? Oh, Carrot. You were pretty sure you said Rabbit.
He definitely said
She
rabbit.
did say rabbit.
She is a rabbit, but come on, you're overgeneralizing there, Ed. Other rabbits. Ed, I think with that, it's time to...
Piece the tweet!
Time to piece the tweet, your Twitter questions, comments, and theories. Ed, what do we got this week?
Quick Quest says, am I seriously the only person who immediately made the L. Frank Baum connection with the tree? Obviously the author of Wizard of Oz. I mean, it also means tree in German. I mean, that's what Baum is.
Yeah.
So, it's multiple layers. Like an ogre.
Wait, what is the Wizard of Oz connection?
This is a fantasy story, I guess. It's general fantasy.
Yeah. I guess the trees like throwing apples and shit like that.
Yeah, that guy, the apple throwing tree.
The seducing woods feel very Oz in their way.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some guy named Mo asks, what if Lippy asks people if they poop because he doesn't, based on this chapter?
Well, we know he doesn't vomit.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've seen him poop.
I think he's onto something there.
Eventually,
we know he pees because of during whiskey pee. Right?
One day he'll encounter the guy with the laxative fruit and the ipecac fruit, and I don't know what he's gonna do.
It's gonna be gross.
It's gonna be.
We
gross.
don't know how gear steam smells.
Yeah, like everyone's like, "Oh, Tank Man, so cool," but you haven't smelt Tank Man. It's not pleasant. You don't want to be around that. Okay, you haven't smelled Tank Man yet. What's next?
It's Aura asks, "This is random, but who do you think is stronger, Zoro or Law?"
Oh God!
I think at the end of the day,
Teresa.
I think at the end of the day, Zoro will be stronger than Law.
And here's why.
Are they arm wrestling? Because that's definitely Zoro.
Yeah, Law relies too much on his devil fruit power.
Yeah. Right. Zoro seems more. I don't know. Maybe he seems more ruthless, but Law took out all those guys' hearts, so it's kind of hard to say.
Are they powered by popularity contest votes?
Yes, real popularity contest. Well, anyway, your RGB asks, "Do you guys think Gear 5th would be gimmicky like Gear 4th? Will Sanji fight, or is it going to be like Robin back then with CP9?
The only one.
I swear to God.
Too many gears.
Well, I mean, you could get up to 6, right, in a car.
Well,
or more.
So far,
what is this, Utena?
Luffy's not a car.
Well, isn't that what the gears are based off of?
I don't know.
I'll just say I like this. I like that this chapter introduces the idea that there can be multiple forms of Gear 4, so that we don't have to jump to Gear 5 yet.
Yeah, that was that good observation there, Casey. I noted that too, and I'm glad somebody said it because I completely forgot about that. We have Bound Man and Tank Man. What other Mega Man villains will we be adopting for these forms?
Proto Man.
What about Sanji fighting in this arc? You think he's going to fight? I think he will.
Heck yes, he has to.
He's going to fight his father, basically.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say all the gears except for 2, I'd say, are gimmicky. So 3 and 4. I mean, they're cool, but they're also gimmicky. That's just Oda. We won't see 5, and
I don't think we'll see 5 until an Emperor fight, and I feel like it won't be that gimmicky.
Yeah, maybe.
But who knows?
All right, next question comes from Straw Hat Pirate 9. Well, this is more of a comment, but Abigail. She likes the explanation of Sanji's chivalry. She doesn't love it, but what we know of him now, it makes sense that he would hold on to that. I think at least I kind of agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Anime Lover 1491. What do you think happened to Pound since he's nowhere to be seen? Perhaps to get some apple juice finally.
Great question.
Maybe he went down to Pound Town.
Oh no!
Low hanging fruit there. Perhaps low hanging apple juice. Yeah, thank you, Ed.
Maybe he did an Augustus Gloop. He went to the apple juice and then he fell in the river and now he's stuck in a pipe somewhere.
All I can think about when I hear the term apple juice is Day Job Orchestra ridiculous videos.
Yep. He went to go get some apple juice. Why
don't we get apple juice and fax it to each other? Keith Hibbs asks, what would happen to the mirror world if Brûlé was knocked out? Because I'm pretty sure Carrot and Chopper could take her down.
I think it'll be like Jorah, the art human. If when she was knocked unconscious, the abstract art thing stopped.
They're stuck inside of the mirrors.
But Brûlé is in there with them, so I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah.
Also, that brings up another point that I thought about. Like every time a devil fruit user gets knocked unconscious and their powers dissipate or whatever. What if they go to sleep? How Sugar, Sugar gets knocked unconscious, then all the people who get turned back or got turned into toys will turn back into humans. Well, if they've been human or if they've been toys for over a decade, does that mean she's never been unconscious? What's the deal with that? That's my question.
Perhaps if the flicker of consciousness is there. It has to be it has to be a true blackout, a true knockout.
Maybe if they knock out Brûlé, it'll be like that one episode of Evangelion, and they'll just explode out of her stomach or something super gross.
The giant, the mirror, the mirror cube.
Yep.
Okay. Necro Phoenix asks, could Abado Pizarro be a former member of Kaido's crew? He horns like the Animal Kingdom pirates.
Yeah, I noted that. Probably. He also says "nya" at the end of everything too, like a cat.
Well, he is very feline. He has like whiskers.
I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it would be interesting, like why or how he got caught in the first place. You know, who was able to take him down to put him in jail in the first place.
Also a good point. Yeah.
But it would make sense as to why he was on, the lowest, deepest level of Impel Down. All right. Pepsi Rules 09 says, I guess Luffy should tell Jerry Seinfeld that crackers do count as a meal.
Wasn't that soup?
Yeah, I think
maybe. Yeah.
I think he's mixing it with soup.
Soup is not a meal.
Yeah, until
The best pea soup, Jerry. The best.
All right. Naked Squirrel says, do you think Vegapunk is secretly working for the Revolutionary Army after Kuma joined the Warlords?
Yes.
Very possible.
I think so.
Yeah. I'd like to see that.
Our very own Brian, Dark King Zoro, just when I think Translatosaurus, our very own Stephen, has exhausted his tree puns, he's managed to root out a few more.
Ah.
Well done, Brian.
All right. Mr. Wetz says, how do you think the Shanks aspect of the story will play out before reaching Kaido? And that's a broad question.
I don't think we're going to get a lot of Shanks before that.
I don't think it will.
Yeah, not before reaching Kaido.
I think Shanks is going to be some of the last stuff before the final war, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I've already had one Harry Potter question. Try again next week, Vince Smoke Jojo. The second part to that, to Naked Squirrel's question is, and do you think that Vegapunk built the pacifistas as a way to help the revolutionaries by saying that they are Navy weapons? It's secretly building them for the revolutionaries, I suppose.
It's very complicated because now we know Vegapunk was captured at some point along the way. But we also know he has some allegiance, perhaps, to the revolutionaries. I think Ivankov said something during the war about Vegapunk, and also Kuma and his revolutionary connections. So anyone's guess at this point. I mean, he still obviously has ties to the government, as Smoker and the crew are going to see Dr. Bigger Pants at the moment.
But that was actually the last question we had on Piece of Tweets. So if you guys don't have anything else, we can go on to the end of the show.
Does anyone here have a question for us? So thank you guys. I'm good. How are you, Steve?
I'm fine.
Okay, that's good. Why don't we round off the podcast? You guys ready?
Yeah, okay.
This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 439 for the week of October 10th, 2016. Thank you all for coming on the show. This was a fun one. I want to remind everyone before we go that there will be the One Piece Kabuki in Los Angeles. Steve, you're in Los Angeles. This is perfect for you.
I am in Los Angeles, not at the moment, but...
Not at the moment, but you will soon be back there. It's going to be on November 27th. That's the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. And that's going to be in the TCL Chinese 6 Theaters in Hollywood. We'll give you more information for tickets and a lot more on our website probably in the next few weeks. The times that they're going to be showing are 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So please check that out in Los Angeles. It's going to be awesome. Also want to mention that, once again, One Piece Film Gold is coming out in January, so keep an eye out on the podcast for meetup information and a lot more. Next week, we may have a special guest. We may have some special segments, but we will definitely have our Arcs of Consequence special from Matsuricon. Very excited to present that all to you guys with some updated thoughts on the arc, with a lot of crew members who were not there for the original Arcs of Consequence, so a lot of new opinions in a abridged 2-hour format from our original 6 hours that we spent on that. I think that's a year ago at this point. So make sure to check that out next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have some other special stuff for you. Keep an eye on Twitter to see what exactly that may contain. I think that's everything for me. Casey, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Minovsky Article, where I'm currently live tweeting manga and tweeting a horror movie a day for the 31 days of Halloween.
Thank you, Casey, for coming on again.
My pleasure.
We also want to thank Stephen for coming on. Where can people find you?
You may follow me on Twitter at Translatosaurus if you like.
Always succinct, Stephen. I love it. Alex, where can people find you?
You can find me on the Twitter. You can find me on the Tumblr. You can find me on the Instagram and also the Vine you can find me on. And you can find me on it using dude exclamation. That's all one word. Also, you should listen to the other podcasts that I am a part of, including 20 Minutes of Bullshit with our own Steve Yurko. We have a new we have a Twitter account now. It's 20minsbs, so please follow that for any updates. We're going to be modifying the format a little bit, so tweet at us. It'd be great. Also, Toho Yaro with Scott Dryman and Joey Weiser. House is the movie that we're covering this month. Toho Yaro, by the way, is our Japanese movie club podcast. So if you have a Hulu account, while the Criterion movies haven't switched to the Filmstruck streaming service, please check out House. It's a really baffling and bizarre movie and perfect for the October month. So please check that out. Watch the movie and then listen to our podcast. Also, tweet at us. And that's it.
Steve, where can people find you?
Well, besides those podcasts, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. Steve Yurko is the username, all one word. It's currently Inktober. I'm posting some new ink drawings every day, except for the last few days. I've just been busy with some Comic-Con stuff. I'll get back to that ASAP. I don't know. Check me on the One Piece podcast. I'm back now.
This is a good place. Yeah, good to have you back, Steve. I know it's been a while, and it was good seeing you this past weekend as well. I also want to mention, before we get into all of our contact information, that our good friends at That Anime Show are running a Patreon to restart their podcast. They're looking to raise $3,500 for their Patreon by January, so we urge you to support our good friends over there, Terry Doty, J. Michael Tatum, and Stephen Hoff. You can check that out at thatanimeshow.com. And Ed, how could you contact us?
You are Zach_Logan on Twitter. I am Edward E. Fastizio. The podcast can be found at OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/OnePiecePodcast. OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com is our email address. OnePiecePodcast is our Skype name. Leave us some piece together at reddit.com/r/OnePiecePodcast. And you can have any other discussion you want related to the podcast there as well, I guess. Subscribe on SoundCloud. Subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. Oh, also, Google Play, you can subscribe on there, or call us on our phone number.
Ed, that phone number is 347-497-MAGI.
Maji.
That phone number again is 347-497-6254, or call anytime.
Anytime.
With your questions, comments, theories, or tree puns, send those directly to Steven at Translatosaurus. Thank you all for coming on the show. Again, there's no chapter next week, but we got an anime recap for you, and we have our Arcs of Consequence, the special Matsuricon edition. That's there for you, and potentially a lot more surprises down the road. We have a lot of other special guests coming this month. Please check our website for that, including guests from Funimation and many other places. So again, check out our website, OnePiecePodcast.com, for the latest news, opinions. We have new editorials out as well, I should also mention, including one from Jason, who read, I think he read 5,000 pages of One Piece in one night, but you could read more about that. He reviews Box 3, which just came out. Eden also did the latest Pirate Couture for Halloween, going through the One Piece Halloween outfits. Check that out. And Ashwin, our new editorial writer, also wrote a little bit about, let's just say he used the title we used way back in the day, Power Rate in the Kisser, so you can check that one out as well. And finally, Mike wrote an editorial about the One Piece Treasure Cruise, so check that out as well. All on OnePiecePodcast.com. But until next week, my name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
My name is Steve.
And my name is Alex.
We'll see you next week, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
See you later.